Hey guys, it's Mike here, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing a subject that dates back to the Cell Saga of Dragon Ball Z. During that arc, we were introduced to the androids, the Jinzo Ningen, artificial humans, or cyborgs, who were created by the evil Dr. Gero in order to get revenge upon Goku, to destroy him, his friends, and help him to take over the world. However, the androids, especially 17 and 18, spawned a much greater threat, which led to them getting rid of Dr. Gero, taking over the world themselves in terms of starting a reign of terror, wiping out all the Z fighters, and then forcing time travel into the story just so that our characters would be able to defeat them. But when it comes to the androids, there is a question that many people have no doubt wondered over the years with regard to the characters that survived and went on to fight them, especially over the years in the future Trunks and original timelines. That comes down to the Saiyans, and more specifically their own biology and a certain type of power boost they get after each individual battle, especially when they're brought to the brink of death. And that would be the Zenkai boost. And the question of why exactly do the Saiyans not get Zenkai boosts when they fight against the androids? A lot of people may think that they do. However, I think that there's actually ample evidence to suggest that they never did. And I think that there's actually a really strong in-universe reason for that. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is getting in-depth into that, bringing up all the examples of when this should have happened. However, I'm going to be explaining if it actually did or not. But before I begin, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing and enabling all notifications. That way you could stay up to date with all of my future videos like these. Additionally, if you like this content, make sure to leave a like, share the video out, make sure to stay the entire time because that really helps the video do well too, and for you to get a full picture of everything I'm talking about. And also, if you're watching in the first hour, you're the real hero. But with that being said, let's get into the video. So the concept of a Zenkai was first introduced to us back on Namek by Vegeta, and there's 3 different examples of Vegeta explaining exactly how it works leading up to the fight with Frieza. For example, we had the fight earlier with Kui, where Vegeta was able to easily defeat him because his power increased through Zenkai fighting Goku on Earth as well as the others. Additionally, we get this other statement here where he explains it a little bit more in depth, telling Dodoria, who he was always weaker than but now is able to easily kill, "We Saiyans grow even stronger whenever we walk away from a battle. The stronger my opponent is, the more my own strength increases. So after nearly dying on Earth, I've grown stronger than I'd ever dreamed possible. Such is the power of the warrior race of the Saiyans." So what Vegeta is saying right here ties into what I've explained more in depth in another video you could see in the top right corner, where I went really far into breaking down exactly how a Zenkai boost works. In summation, my theory, the active threat Zenkai theory, explains and has all the evidence backing it up that whenever a Saiyan is fighting someone who is stronger than them or who is capable of defeating them with their power, the Saiyan will feel the power internally within their bodies and through the ki that is transferred or felt instinctually or through sensing abilities like Vegeta has, and then it will then in turn re-augment and reconfigure the body so that it is able to level up to match the energy output, durability, and strength of whomever they are in fact fighting at the time, so that they can either fight them again or defeat them, as we see with Vegeta doing here, and also, especially later on when he breaks it down even more in depth, when he goes to fight against Zarbon, where he says, "I thought you were supposed to know everything about the Saiyans, Zarbon. When we come back from the brink of death, a Saiyan's strength increases substantially. Looking back on it, treating my wounds was a pretty careless move." So Vegeta was stomped by this form of Zarbon earlier on. However, because Zarbon left him alive and Vegeta's body felt the damage that he had taken, he felt the strength and the overall ki of Zarbon, he was able to scale up to him. Now Krillin here makes kind of a retcon statement right here, where he actually says, "That's exactly how Goku is when he walks away from a fierce battle." So that's the reason why Vegeta's ki has risen like crazy. This is something that in Dragon Ball they often do, where they have a character who is supposed to have some kind of credibility mentioning something that is the case, which is usually just retroactive continuity. We even saw this in Dragon Ball Superhero when Gohan said that, oh, the Saiyans stay really small until they get to a certain age and they sprout up, despite the fact that Gohan was somebody we saw gradually aging over the course of the story and doesn't line up with that. But nonetheless, Goku never got any actual on-screen Zenkais in the original Dragon Ball, because Toriyama didn't come up with this concept until right here. You know, some people say, oh, well, he got one after he fought against Tao, or he got one after he fought against Piccolo. No, he trained after he fought against Tao with Korra, and that's how he got stronger. And he also drank the super sacred water after he fought against and almost died against Piccolo, and there was no indication that just healing made him stronger. That's never a thing up until this point. So with all that being said, we get into the future Trunks timeline. And so you'd think that the Saiyans, whenever they're surviving against opponents who are stronger than them, coming back from near death and so on, would be able to get these ridiculous Zenkai boosts that we see all throughout the course of Namek, which takes Goku, for example, from a power level of 90,000 when he arrives on the planet to 3 million in his base, and then 150 million when he transforms into a Super Saiyan. Or Vegeta, when he shows up having a power level of over 20,000 to having a power level where he could actually fight against, the weakest form Frieza, and then to where he's able to likely surpass third form Frieza, the Xenomorph form. So with that being said, why exactly is this not happening here? You know, there's never any indication whatsoever that the Saiyans are getting Zenkais. Like, for example, Gohan, after he fought in a life or death battle against the androids, lost his arm. We don't see this happen on screen in the anime. They do actually show it in that version, but in the manga, it's left open to the imagination. And as, Trunks points out right here, he says that, Bulma says that Gohan in his gi looks a lot like his dad. However, Gohan implies, as we could see here, that he actually isn't as powerful as his father when he passed away. He basically says it right here. I wear it because I hope I could be as strong as my dad before he passed away, but it's not as easy as it seems. So the thing is that Gohan, despite fighting against the androids, who knows how many times during the course of these 14 plus years that he's been, being the only real powered Z fighter left alive, he still is not stronger than his own father when he died in the original storyline, when he died of the heart virus. And that would be a Goku who's weaker than the Goku that we go on to see right here, who is fighting against Android 19 and then would eventually go into train in the time chamber. I'll talk more about this momentarily. Despite this, Gohan, after all these years of training and stuff, never seemed to get any Zenkais that put him above them. In fact, as we see when he goes to fight against 17 and 18, he goes and, attacks 17, and he says right here, 17 in fact, "Oh yes, long time no see, son Gohan. Has it already been a year? I can't believe you're alive after all that you've been through." So he's saying that basically he did so much to Gohan during their last encounter, and maybe during a number of other encounters, depending upon how many times these two were supposed to have fought, that he's even surprised that Gohan survived, which means that Gohan must have been near the brink of death theoretically, and in turn should have gotten a big Zenkai boost, right? However, Gohan never mentions anything like that. Instead, he says, "I've been training hard to make me strong enough to beat you. This time, it'll be your turn to lose." However, as 17 points out, "Sorry to disappoint you, but I was using only half of my strength last time, or in some translations, even less." And at this point, Gohan is shocked because 17 is able to come up to him and kill him easily off screen because the fact that he goes all out. And the thing is, again, if 17 actually had given Gohan a Zenkai boost when he fought him, then Gohan should have been a lot stronger in this and probably would have been able to defeat him, especially when you factor in the training. And yet, there's no indication that he even got that, and as a result, Gohan's left dead laying in the street. Same thing happens with Trunks. When he goes to fight the androids as a Super Saiyan, the androids seemingly spare him, which is why he's left alive and he's in this hospital, and, it looks like he was probably on the brink of near death because 5 days later later, he finally wakes up and he was in a coma, and you could see just how terrible shape he was in, saying he was no match for the androids, and he can't even believe that he made it back alive. This is what leads to them having to go back in time in order to defeat them. But the thing is, again, shouldn't Trunks have gotten a Zenkai boost here that would have powered him up to the power of the androids? Well, again, it didn't happen. Same thing again with Goku, as I was just showing before, when he was fighting against the androids. You could think theoretically he should have gotten some degree of Zenkai boost, right? Because not only did he fight against Android 19, and because the combination of the heart virus and fighting the androids, he was beaten down and put to the point to where he was almost dead because he was getting his energy drained and he was almost dying of the heart virus. And yet, when he wakes up, he has zero indication at all that he has any kind of increase in power or that he, has any chance against the current androids. He was able to sense and hear everything in his mind when he was asleep in that coma. And yet what he says here is that if Vegeta can't beat them right now, then I won't be able to either. There's no point in him even fighting, and that's why he's going to aim higher and try and go above the Super Saiyan, which is where he implements his plan of everyone going into the time chamber to get their increase in strength. Same thing with Vegeta if we're going to talk about, well, how strong is Vegeta when Goku is referencing him here? Well, in fact, we know just how powerful Vegeta is because not only did Vegeta stomp Android 19 right here when he went on to fight him as a Super Saiyan, but not just that, he also went on to get beaten pretty brutally by the androids, particularly androids 18. As we see, the two of them are fighting, and at first Vegeta was actually not doing too bad when both of them were going all out. As I discussed in another video you could see in the top right corner about Vegeta's strength during this period of time. However, as the fight went on, Vegeta was worn down by the androids, and not just that, but had one of his arms broken. But things only got much worse from here, because that wasn't the end of that, because Vegeta would get beaten down even more by 18, where he's slammed into Trunks, and then 18 proceeds to seemingly break his ribs when she kicks him right here, and then break his other arm, causing him to fall unconscious. Now, a lot of people will say that this is actually not a life-threatening injury. I really don't necessarily agree. Vegeta not only got beaten pretty hard and was, on the verge of probably dying because of that, but had both of his arms broken. There are people that have been in situations like this in real life, they died. And so there's a very strong chance that Vegeta was left unattended here, just left laying around and never given a senzu bean. There's a chance he himself would have died from the situation. And the androids also say right here that Vegeta and the others probably were going to die unless they gave them senzu beans. So it might not seem outwardly like a deadly injury or situation, but it definitely is. And this is why Krillin gives Vegeta a senzu bean. Plus, if Vegeta was just walking around with his arms flailing around all over the place all the time because he, has two broken arms, he wouldn't really exactly be much of a fighter now, would he? But after Vegeta wakes up, he flies off into the distance, and at that point, we get zero indication that Vegeta actually is stronger than he was before. We see him when he starts to freak out on top of this mountain and destroying it and, saying how he thought the Super Saiyan was supposed to be invincible, yet he was defeated casually, and that, he is questioning whether or not his biology is inferior to the artificial humans because of their science. And then he says that he's going to become stronger and he's going to surpass them, which is something that we inevitably see him repeat and reiterate, which is something that Goku also reiterates right here, where he says, "I will surpass them all, I swear on everything. I will go beyond even a Super Saiyan. I'm sure that Kakarot will try to do the same. You can count on that." So the idea here is never that they are getting Zenkai boosts, that they could just keep getting beaten up to near death and coming back. After all, if that's the case, then why didn't Krillin blast Vegeta again? Or why didn't, a bunch of those things occur? Well, because the Zenkai boost is irrelevant here because the fact that they're fighting against the androids. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, simple. The androids are very different from all the other fighters that the characters face for one major reason, and that is because, as we could see right here, when number 19 and 20 show up at the island, where they're saying they're waiting around, waiting for them to attack, and they're saying right here, I'm not sensing any strong ki. If these guys are half as strong as this kid claims they are, we should be able to sense them out anywhere on the planet. This is what leads to, of course, their surprise when Yajirobe's flying car is attacked, and they say, there's something in the air, he was attacked from above, the androids are up there, they descend down to the town, but Goku then points out what in the world is going on. I didn't sense any ki from them at all. And what does Gohan say? It's because they're artificial humans. They don't have any ki. So this is a major factor as to why the androids very likely do not actually give Saiyans a Zenkai boost when they fight them. Because the fact of the matter is, I pointed out before, the Saiyans actually have to be able to feel and sense the power and the ki of whomever it is that they're fighting on display. And thus, as a result, if they cannot, even on a very instinctual level, sense and utilize that power and be able to match themselves up to it, then how in turn are they ever going to get a Zenkai boost when their body has no idea what's going on? Now, a lot of people might point out, well, Mike, there's a lot of characters in the story, like most of the Saiyans up until a certain point, who do not actually have the ability to sense ki normally. That's why Vegeta and Raditz and Nappa and many of the Frieza Force use scouters, right? However, on an instinctual level, the Saiyan body will still be feeling and sensing this energy when it's around them. The thing is, even early in Dragon Ball, just achieving certain levels of power is something that Goku is able to then in turn sense people's power. It's not like it's something that he trained intensely in order to learn how to lock onto a key signature or something. Vegeta himself is able to just do it immediately after he found out that Goku and the others can do it when he gets back to healing on planet Frieza and then going to Namek. He still uses the scouter to track them and like hear what they're doing and stuff, but eventually he throws it away because he doesn't actually need it anymore. And the thing is too, let's talk about actually how they feel it, because let's say that it's less about actually sensing it and more their body actually feeling the ki being given off by their opponent. After all, in every single case where a fight is occurring, the opponent that somebody will be fighting against is still going to be draped in their power. They're still going to be punching you with punches that are infused with ki. They're still going to be doing all these different things that are going to give you an indicator in a sense of the ki, so that your own ki and your ability to control it will be able to level up to match them in the case of a Saiyan in their biology, which augments itself to be able to in turn utilize the power of ki more effectively for defense, for strength, for durability, and so on. That's much of what the Super Saiyan form even is itself, and we see just how effective it can be, especially right here when Vegeta is able to annihilate Android 19 even after he absorbed Goku's energy and much of his own. However, if the androids don't have any ki, and somehow, let's say Dr. Gero was able to invent a science that actually made it to where none of their ki ever leaks out of their body, it is never actually given off. They use, let's say, their infinite energy is actually something more along the lines of, pure energy, which is different from ki and would have different interactions with the physical body, then it only makes sense that even when Vegeta and the others are being beaten down by Android 17 and 18, that they in turn will not get Zenkai boosts. Because not only can they not sense them, they have no frame of reference for just how powerful the androids are, because the androids are always holding back, which is a major thing that we see in the original Future Trunks timeline, and the, History of Trunks timeline as well, which is that Gohan had no idea that Android 17 was still that much more powerful than he thought. And not just that, but also, one thing that we saw with Cell, for example, when he returned from his self-destruction, was the fact that Cell was not actually getting hit by the full power of Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. That's another major thing that people need to factor in when it comes to a Zenkai boost. If a Saiyan is not fighting against somebody at full power but still gets dominated and devastated, they're only going to scale up to the outward power that was utilized at the time. So if the androids held back every single time they fought against Gohan and Trunks and Vegeta and so on, they're not going to be able to necessarily scale up to that level of power either, right? Because the fact of the matter is their body never would feel the true full-on strength of the power of the androids in any capacity whatsoever. And then finally, there's also the idea, which I believe is backed up by a Toriyama interview, where he said in the past that one of the things too that happens with Zenkais as the Saiyans reach Super Saiyan and get as powerful as they do on Namek is the fact that the Saiyans no longer get as large of Zenkai boosts after this. Of course, that's one of Toriyama's interviews, which is not necessarily something he was thinking when he was writing and creating the story. And not just that, but oftentimes those interviews tend to be contradicted by things that happen later, especially like Dragon Ball Super, where it seems like Zenkais just came back with a vengeance, at least in the anime version. Then the manga version, they say they didn't, and then they get them later on the manga, apparently, because, well, that's Dragon Ball Super. And that's a whole separate continuity, like I discussed in another video you could see in the top right corner, discussing its overall canonicity. But that's another thing people could factor in, that maybe, for example, when Gohan and the others were getting the Zenkai boost against them, they were so insignificant, it ultimately made no difference, and that's why training had to be a factor and had to be the thing that would inevitably lead to the androids being defeated in not only the present, but also the future. Because again, if Trunks had gotten Zenkai boosts along the way, if Gohan did too, they should have been able to do exactly what Trunks did right here, surpassing the power of the androids, blowing them away, and stopping any threat from ever coming to them, especially with regard to Cell and the possibility of his perfection. Alright guys, so that is why I believe that the androids did not give the Saiyan Zenkai boost in the Dragon Ball franchise. Let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments. Do you agree or disagree? Additionally, make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications so you can stay up to date with all my future videos. Leave a like if you like this, share the video out. Thank you so much for watching, not only in the first hour, but the whole way through, because you guys matter too. And with that being said, make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.